Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal Judicial Primary Debates. Here's your host, Victor Jakes.
Hi, I'm Victor Jakes. Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal's Nevada Judicial Debate Series. Today's debate is between the three candidates running for Department 2 in Clark County District Court. Joining me are incumbent Judge Richard Scotti and challengers Carli Kierny and Dustin Marchello. Before we begin, a word on format. We are conducting this debate over Zoom in response to the coronavirus outbreak, and we urge everyone to take precautions to keep each other safe and healthy. We'll start by giving each candidate a 1-minute opening statement. Carli, we'll begin with you.
Thank you, Victor. My name is Carli Kierny, and I'm running for judge in District Court Department 2. My parents are both public school teachers, so I have a strong commitment to public service. To that end, I've spent my career as a public defender, appearing in court all day, every day, defending the constitutional rights of people. At this point, it's been thousands of cases that I've handled. I've handled everything you can imagine in the criminal justice system, ranging from misdemeanor bench trials all the way to complicated homicide trials. Since COVID-19 has started, we have still been working as public defenders. We are deemed to be essential employees, so I'm still going into the office every day to answer my clients' questions about what's going on with court, as well as making sure that they still have access to services ranging all the way from food banks to continuing mental health services and drug treatment, which has been disrupted by this outbreak. I've also been volunteering with a program delivering food to people who are immunocompromised and elderly and can't leave their homes. I am the best choice for District Court Department 2 because I have the judicial.
Thank you, Carli.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I appreciate that. Dustin, you're up next.
Thank you. My name is Dustin Marchello, and I'm running for District Court Department 2. I am a lifelong born and raised resident of Las Vegas. I grew up here. I went to Clark High School. I went to UNLV. I went to the Boyd School of Law. Due to my time in the community and in the support of the community, I am supported by healthcare workers through the SEIU, supported through the culinary workers of Las Vegas, supported by the deputy marshals of Las Vegas, supported by the building trades of Las Vegas, by veterans associations, and it's been due to my support of the community. I've been a private attorney for the last 14 years, but I've also worked at the district attorney's office. I've argued in front of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I've done a number of jury trials in Clark County, and I am well experienced, and I have the temperament and the qualifications and the ability to be the best district court judge in Department 2. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dustin. Judge Scotti?
Yes, hi, I'm Judge Richard Scotti. For 30 years, I've practiced law here, and during that time, I have raised my family here. It's been quite an honor and a very humbling experience to serve as your judge. The lawyers in town have awarded me the A+ preeminent rating, which is the highest rating that an attorney can receive in legal ability and ethical standards. I've received the endorsement of over 100 law enforcement agencies in the state of Nevada, as well as veterans endorsements. The veteran endorsement means a lot to me. My dad received the Purple Heart, having fought as a Marine in the Vietnam War, so I grew up in a military family. Before I judge, I was the lead attorney in the longest civil jury trial in the history of Nevada. Then the lawyers elected me twice as governor of the state bar and also chairman of the State Civility Committee. The Supreme Court also appointed me as a special mediator to help homeowners in the foreclosure crisis during the financial crisis. Clark County deserves a judge with passion to serve, and I will work tirelessly for the people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge Scotti. We'll move into questions. Carli, we'll start with you. In criminal cases, judges have a lot of discretion in issuing sentences, while acknowledging, of course, that every case is different. Do you think your sentences will tend to be stricter or more lenient?
I think that's a good question. I didn't get to explain my background. I also have a more balanced background. I'm not just a criminal defense attorney. I'm also a trained volunteer victim advocate for Safeness, the domestic violence charity. So I think I have the perspective and the balance to weigh those decisions very carefully, because I know that people can do terrible things in the criminal justice system, and I know it affects victims as well as defendants severely. My goal would always be to try to fix the problem if I can. A lot of people in the criminal justice system, 50% of people have a drug problem, and about 25% of those won't receive any help. About 20% have a mental health issue. So if I can solve the problem, I'd rather do that than send somebody to prison. But there's absolutely going to be cases where the only answer is prison, and I will do that because it is my duty as a judge.
Thank you, Carli. Dustin, same question for you. If you're on the bench, how do you think your sentences will stack up compared to others?
Well, having worked for both the Clark County District Attorney's Office and having done private criminal defense for the last 14 years, I think I have a very balanced perspective. Really what we want, both society and for the individual, is justice. And over these years, I think I've gotten a very good handle on what a just and fair sentence is, both for the person as well as for society. One of the common problems is we get stuck thinking about who should be let out, criminal justice reform. The real question is, are we putting the right people in? Are the right people going into prison? And I think that due to my experience and the time I've had and the individuals I've dealt with and the cases I've done, that I would be well qualified to bring a perspective to the bench of sentencing. Additionally, I've also drafted legislation, and I've also been a legal commentator on model legislation at the state and federal level.
Thank you very much, Dustin. Judge Scotty, you've been on the bench. How do you stack up compared to your peers?
Thank you very much. Yes, I have been on the bench for 5 years now. You can't just pick one or the other, strict sentence or lighter sentence. I worked in the criminal field now for 5 years. I've had sentences ranging from Category E felonies, where you let somebody have probation and an opportunity to redeem themselves, all the way up to I've sentenced individuals to life in prison. You really need to look at the circumstances of the case. They're not easy. It's not easy to determine a sentence. You need to get the input from parole and probation department, input from the victim, input from the defendant, input from the attorneys on both sides. We have an awful lot of discretion here. I've handled 600 criminal jury trial days here on the bench. So I have a lot of experience in analyzing the proper harshness or leniency that must be meted out to an individual. One of the things that we need to also consider is—
Thank Judge Scotty, we're gonna have to leave it there, unfortunately.
Okay.
Come back to another answer. Our judicial primary debates will continue in just a moment.
For all your Raiders news, like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
All your listeners and followers, the best name of any podcast in the world is podcast.
Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's ever faked
Not that we
their
know
death.
of.
No.
When you work with Prince, you got to get used to the fact that he changes musicians like underwear.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Tom Brady.
Who?
And Tom Brady, he's a quarterback in the Boston area.
I'm not sure who you're talking about.
You're watching the judicial primary debate for Department 2. It's part of an ongoing series of debates produced by the Las Vegas Review-Journal to inform local voters about these important races. Dustin, on your website, you write that, quote, "I am at heart a trial attorney and highly value the role of the trial courts," end quote. If you're a trial attorney, a trial lawyer at heart, why are you running to be a judge?
I've spent my entire life in Las Vegas, and you know what? Las Vegas has been good to me. I grew up next to the Gold Coast. My father worked at the Stardust as a craps dealer, and I got a lot of opportunities, a little bit of luck that Vegas is famous for, and I was able to have opportunities that I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else. And I think now that I have a family, I just had my third child 2 weeks ago. I think now is my time where I want to give something back, where I want to say that I want to provide something to the community that's been so great to me. And I think that really is what changed my perspective and made me want to run for district court and provide for and try to do something for the community that's been so good to me. So that's why I'm trying to make the transition. Yes, I have a successful practice. Yes, things are great, but I'd like the challenge and something new of being in district court and giving back to the community.
Thank you very much, Dustin. Judge Scotty, during your time on the bench, You once swore and tossed a book during the jury selection portion of a trial. That resulted in the Nevada Supreme Court reversing the conviction and life sentence of a man accused of child molestation. Why should voters reelect you after an incident like that?
Thank you for the question. First and foremost, I regret what happened, and I apologize for not treating the conduct or treating the juror more respectfully. It was a very emotionally charged case. This was a case that had allegations of child sexual assault and rape. And we were trying to obtain a juror that was well suited for this trial. Balanced background and experience. We picked a juror that we thought was going to be perfect and vetted the juror. And then the very next day, the juror was less than candid with the court in the juror's ability to serve. We did have to remove the juror. There was something else going on that day, and I have to say, and it still hurts my heart, my dad, I was up visiting him 2 weeks before this, and he couldn't remember me anymore. He had cancer that he got from chemical contamination fighting as a Marine in the Vietnam War. He was dying. I went up there 2 weeks before this, and I was really distraught. I've learned from this. I now have
Thank you.
Universal recognition as an excellent jurist in proper temperament.
Thank you, Judge Scotty. Carli, you spent the last 10 years working as a public defender. Should voters be concerned that if elected, you'll be too lenient on those convicted of crimes?
No, as I explained earlier, I think there's a complicated balancing system that goes into any sentencing decision. You have to look at somebody's background, at somebody's ability for rehabilitation, as well as, the impact on the victim. And can society still be safe with this person on the streets? So I think that there's never going to be a decision that's easy. There's never going to be a decision that I just go on autopilot, that I'm going to give somebody, just let everybody out. That's not going to happen. There will be prison sentences because that's what the legislature has determined there is going to be. So I don't think that needs to be a concern. And yes, I've been a public defender my entire career. In fact, I was the public defender on that case that Judge Scotty just discussed.
I did not know that. Thank you very much, Carli. Judge Scotty, this question's for you.
Yes, sir.
In 2018, you ordered the Review Journal and Associated Press to destroy a public record the news organizations had received related to the October 1st shooting. The Nevada Supreme Court later found that your decision violated the First Amendment. How is it acceptable to order a news organization to destroy a record that it had already received?
I have tremendous respect for the First Amendment freedom of the press, and ordinarily the freedom of the press will win out over many other rights. In this case, there was concern I had for the rights of privacy of the Hartfields. The widow was in my courtroom with other victims of the October 1 shooting crying, saying, Judge Scotty, don't release this coroner report. I had released 50,000 pages of documents from Metro already to the Review Journal. I didn't want this one document. I thought to myself, why do the people need to see how this officer was killed, what organs were exploded, where he fell, how much blood bled out, how much pain he was in? People don't need to see this. The children of the widow didn't need to see this and relive this. I made a decision. I am proud of the system where my decision was reviewed by the Supreme Court. That's our system. That's the American way. I accept it. But under these circumstances, there was no reason I felt at the time that that coroner report needed to be produced.
Thank you, Judge Scotty. Carli, I want to ask you a question about that. Nevada's public records law is very broad. It's so broad that it even includes records that could produce emotional distress to people that everyone's sympathetic for. What would you have done in that situation? Do you follow the law, or do you follow your heart?
You have to follow the law, even if you don't agree with it. That's what judges do. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a reversal. And reversals are expensive emotionally and financially, obviously. You have to follow what the Supreme Court has said as the law. You have to follow the Constitution. You have to follow the laws that the legislators have written as they've written them. So I understand, what Judge Scotty is saying about the emotion of that. It does definitely tug at my heartstrings as well, but you unfortunately you do have to follow the law under those circumstances.
Thank you, Carli. Dustin, I want you to jump in here. What's your perspective on what happened? And when you face public records cases, are you going to rule on the side of transparency or what people are saying in front of you?
You have to rule on the case that's in front of you. I'll just say, knowing that case, I will tell you, I would have done the same thing. I would have prevented that record from being released. I'll just tell you that right now. But the issue was, and again, this goes back to the other case. The issue is not the action that was taken, is that it was legally incorrect. I'd note that there's almost 16% of cases for the current incumbents have been overturned. It's not recognizing the mistake when it was there to fix it legally. There was a legal way to address it and do it under the law instead of having to do it based off of emotions. And that's really what the issue was. And because you brought emotions into it, because you couldn't keep the temperament, and because you couldn't do it the way under the law, it caused a bigger problem that needed to exist. So while the decision was correct, I think it could have been done in a proper way to avoid all the issues that came out after it.
Thank you. Judge Scotty, I want to give you 30 seconds to respond to that before we have to go to a break.
Thank you. Just a few months ago, the Nevada Supreme Court issued a new opinion, which basically vindicated the legal analysis that I gave in that case. The Supreme Court essentially said there is much more discretion that the judge has in balancing the right to privacy with the requirement to turn over records pursuant to the FOIA request and the protection of the First Amendment rights to free press. There is greater flexibility now given to district court judges to weigh the need for protection and the need
Thank you.
for and I believe that I've been vindicated in that decision.
Thank you, Judge Scotty. Stay tuned. This debate will continue right after these messages. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us. You're watching the Judicial Primary Debate for Department 2. Carli, we'll start with you right now. What, if anything, most needs to change in the judicial system, and what will you do to change it?
That's a tough question because there are a lot of things that are going right in the judicial system right now. I think the decisions from the Nevada Supreme Court have shown that there's an emphasis on treating everyone the same regardless of their ability to post bail. There's also been some decisions and more expansion of specialty courts. I think one of the areas that we're kind of lacking a specialty court in Nevada is we don't have a traumatic brain injury court. And I think that's something that could be created and could absolutely help a lot of people, because that creates a lot of veterans suffer from this. About 11% of the population suffers from this, and this is something that is preventing people from succeeding on probation and succeeding in jobs. So I think there's definitely some expanded specialty court areas that we could work on in Nevada and in the judicial district court especially.
Thank you, Carli. Dustin, same question for you. If you're elected, what do you want to change?
Realistically, it's the access to the court by a regular person. One of the big problems I've always had with the court system and how the court is managed and ran is that a normal person off the street that has an issue, that has a problem, cannot easily access the court system or easily have their matter heard in front of the court. One of the biggest we have a self-help center that's been amazing. I'd like to see that expanded to provide people forms, documents, how to file things, and how to do the nuts and bolts things. One of the biggest problems I think with the legal system is not that it's against people, but that it's indifferent. It doesn't care. It runs as a machinery. It doesn't treat them as a person with a real problem, or two individuals that may have a legitimate dispute about what's right and just need a forum to be heard. And I think that there are so many roadblocks and so many different rules, where you file, how the electronic system works, who has access to it, court records that make it impossible for average citizens to access the court system. I'd like to see that changed.
Thank you very much, Dustin. Judge Scotty, you've been on the bench. What's something that you've changed in your role as a judge, or what's something you'd like to change if you're reelected?
Thank you. One of the things deals with unrepresented litigants. The chief judge appointed me to be basically the appellate court for misdemeanor appeals and eviction appeals. In that role, I often see unrepresented litigants coming into my court, and sometimes they don't understand the complexity of the legal issues. They don't know how to present their arguments. So I need to give them more time and attention. And oftentimes they walk out of my courtroom saying, Judge, I don't agree with what you just did. But they look at me in the eye and say, but you cared, you listened. You're the first judge who actually took the time to actually care about what I had to say. Not all litigants can express themselves sufficiently in order to have that opportunity. I think we might want to consider a specialty court for unrepresented litigants. Also, we need more transparency on the work of the judges. We need more accountability, which will come with transparency. We need more structural community outreach for the judges to get out there and have moot court, mock trials with elementary school kids to teach them about civics and the Constitution.
Thank you, Judge Scott.
More opportunity to talk to the people that are going to serve as our jurors as to their civic responsibility.
Thank you very much. And we'll be back with our final segment in just a moment.
Alexa, play my flash briefing.
Here's what's new in today's news.
Stay in the loop of the latest information in the Las Vegas Valley with the Las Vegas Review-Journal Flash Briefing. Every day, we will provide you with everything you need to know in news, business, weather, entertainment, and sports. Go to the Alexa app and search LVRJ News Briefing. Then say, Alexa, play my flash briefing to hear 3 minutes of the most important information in Las Vegas.
The Vegas Nation podcast is your source for all of your Las Vegas Raiders news. Subscribe and get fast takes and smart coverage. Download the Vegas Nation app and check out vegasnation.com to stay up to date with your Las Vegas Raiders.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. This is our final segment of the judicial primary debate for Department 2. Dustin, a lightning round, about 15 seconds for you. If you are elected, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that people look back and they say that I gave them the attention, the individualized attention to their case, to them as a person, that I understood where they were coming from, and that I treated them with respect and dignity, and I gave their issue the attention it deserved.
Thank you very much. Judge Scotty, you've been on the bench. What legacy do you hope you've left if you're reelected or if this is your last term?
Thank you. I want to be known for humbleness and integrity and experience. Humbleness matters, and that's important to me. Integrity, again, I have the A+ rating in ethics, and I helped draft and circulated the Pledge of Professionalism, and I served as chairman of the Civility Committee. In terms of experience, 30 years practice, longest civil judge.
It's a lightning round. I'm sorry, Judge. I gotta cut you off there. I apologize.
Thank you.
Carli, same question. If you're elected, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want my courtroom to be a place of power. A lot of people are scared to walk into court, but a lot of the major civil rights decisions and everything have been made in courtrooms. So I want it to be a place where people feel like they can be heard and they get their issues dealt with fairly.
Thank you, Carli. We'll go right to closing statements. Judge Scotty, 30 seconds for you.
Oh, thank you. So every day I walk into the RJC, I'm walking up the steps and I'm thinking to myself, I have one of the best jobs in the world, one of the most important jobs in the world. I have to say to myself that let me have the courage to do what's right and the wisdom and the understanding and the attentiveness, and give me the strength to do what is fair. The lawyers in our community have confidence in me now, and I would be humbled to have the support of the lawyers and the residents of Clark County.
Thank you, Judge Scotty. Dustin, 30 seconds.
I've been a pro temp judge. I've been a district attorney, or I've worked at the district attorney's office. I've been a private attorney. I've represented corporate clients. I've argued in front of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. I've done just about everything you can do as an attorney. This is something that I can do for my community and something I would be well versed to do. I do take somewhat issue saying that your readers poll as to judging the judges, the incumbent, Mr. Scotty, was one of the lowest rated judges on that poll. I think I can do a better job. I think I can do more for my community, and I think I can do more for the people of Nevada, and I would appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you, Dustin. Carli, you get the last one, 30 seconds.
Thank you, Victor. Clark County deserves a judge that has an even temper, that has courtroom experience, and that will be balanced to everyone that appears in front of them. They don't deserve somebody who throws the Constitution, and that 48% of the lawyers do not think that they should be retained and should be allowed to stay on the bench. I have all of those things, and I look forward to expanding my role as doing public service for Clark County into that as your newest judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching this edition of Nevada Judicial Debates. Remember, you can find this program and more information on all the judicial races at reviewjournal.com. We'll see you next time.